Hello and welcome to The Film Whisperers, where two movie nerds talk all things film with a contemporary lens. My name is Saj.
And my name is Matt.
So one of the things that I've really enjoyed chatting with you is to explore different eras in film. Your favourite films are definitely from a different, different decade to our current decade. I don't know, I was thinking we probably should do that again. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a good idea. I know we previously did, I think we did the 80s, and that was like, it was cool to kind of talk about, I mean, obviously the movies that we like, but also to kind of discuss some of the ones that like just have aged in a really interesting way. So like movies that at the time were seen as like totally fine and completely normal, when seen now would be like, oh, it's actually like, So it's interesting to look at it that way.
So what era do you reckon we do now?
Well, we did the 80s whenever it was, like a few times ago, but maybe we should try to go back further and try the 70s.
Okay, cool. So now this is, I wasn't even born in this decade.
Have you seen many? Because I actually have to admit, I probably have seen an okay number of them. Even when I was looking earlier, I was like, oh, what are like the really famous movies from the 70s? I'm like, I've probably seen like a quarter of them or even less. So have you seen many 70s movies?
I guess I have. I can think of a few films now that are coming to mind that, sometimes you don't watch a film and go, this was made in the 70s. You might watch a film and just watch a film because, it's come recommended or it's highly rated or it won an Oscar or whatever. I mean, definitely not as to the same volume of the 80s or 90s, but, I think, I think I might have.
When you're thinking of ones that you really like, what would be up there?
All right, okay, so we're doing this.
Yes.
We're doing this, okay, cool. Okay, so my best 70s movie, is that it? Okay. Okay, for a change, I'm actually going to pick a horror one.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. I'm going to have to say The Exorcist.
Ah, classic, okay. Yep,
yeah.
Classic.
So I'm going to share with you a bit of a story around this. Now, I do know that there are a lot of people who find this film funny. My partner is one of them.
Okay.
I to be honest, it's still to this day, it scares me. I find it really it's probably the scariest film I've ever seen. So when I was a kid, I think I would have been around 9 or 10, and this was at a time where video rentals were a thing in the 90s. I remember bringing this video cassette home, and I grew up in a country where age didn't count in terms of if
whether
you wanted
to borrow it or not,
you just borrowed it. And I remember bringing this home and my brother seeing this and pretty much cracking the shits, just going, you shouldn't be watching this, it's too scary for you. And I remember him even telling my mum, just make sure he returns it and make sure that this video cassette is kept away from him.
But then I feel like that would have made me, if I was you, like, I want to watch it even more.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. So I went, as if I found a way to watch it.
Okay.
And oh my God, I had nightmares. The funny thing was I couldn't own up to the fact that I'd watched it because I'd get in trouble. So I was just scared to go to bed. I couldn't sleep, and I couldn't tell people, I couldn't tell my family why. So I think I have that initial really horrific attachment to this film that every time I watch it now, and I do watch it once every couple of years because I just like to watch a horror movie sometimes, right? A good quality one, man, not the ones that you watch. But, but when I want to watch a good quality horror movie, I tend to pick The Exorcist is one of them. And I think that's, the 70s, they did have a couple of good horror movies that ended up getting quite critically acclaimed. I think The Omen was another one. But anyway, back to this. So I think at the time it was probably the first film to talk about exorcisms. It was also, two female leads, Ellen Burstyn, who was still around and still doing amazing work. But, I think she was freaking amazing in it. And I believe she even got an Oscar nomination. I think you're right, I don't think she won. I think overall it's just such a well-paced, well-directed film, and I think that would definitely be my. I know it's a bit dark to have a horror movie as your favorite film of current era.
I'm not complaining.
You wouldn't, I guess. So that'll definitely be mine. But
it's interesting, I should say, like with The Exorcist and even some of those older horror movies, like I feel like a lot of more modern horror movies could take a leaf out of their books, because with The Exorcist, for example, like it's quite slow burning and like it kind of steadily builds up, and there are obviously quite scary and unsettling moments, but it's not like fast paced, like all this stuff happening all at once. Whereas like a lot of horror movies these days, not all of them, like rely on like all these cheap kills and jump scares all the time, because I think they need to like do so much to get audiences scared. Whereas like a lot of the older ones, like Rosemary's Baby or The Exorcist, stuff like that, they didn't rely on that. It was more about like that. It still made you really scared, even though it was like more slow burning.
And I'd also like to add, there's barely any gore in it. There's
that's true, yeah.
There's no blood and guts, and I think it was that you feel that sense of eeriness. I think that is very hard to capture in this day and age. I don't know what it is, and it's just that unsettling feeling of I don't know. I feel very out of my comfort zone watching this movie, and horror movies in this day and age, they can never capture that eeriness. So that's going to be mine. But anyway, enough about The Exorcist. What would your favorite film of the 70s be?
Yeah, I'm actually had a few. There's a few in the 70s that I actually really love, so it's hard for me to pick one. But I am going to change like dramatically from a movie like The Exorcist and actually pick The Wiz. So obviously most people at home would have seen The Wizard of Oz. Like, it's a classic, it's been around forever, like absolutely iconic movie. But some people may not have seen The Wiz, which essentially is the same storyline. But instead of Judy Garland, it stars Diana Ross as the kind of main character, and it has Michael Jackson in it. And instead of being in Oz or like the Yellow Brick Road and all that kind of stuff, well, it still actually has the Yellow Brick Road, but it's set in like a kind of alternate New York City, so it's a bit more kind of grungy and dark in a way, like in terms of like the atmosphere. And I just really love it. Like the music in it's really fun. I've probably seen the movie like genuinely like about 10 times. Like I watched it when I was younger, and then I've revisited it so many times because it's just like a really fun movie. Like, I mean, obviously I love Diana Ross, so maybe that's a big part of the draw card, but I think the music's really fun and catchy. Like I've listened to the soundtrack so many times. But yeah, I would definitely pick that one. And I also like it as well, partly because The Wizard of Oz is just so omnipresent. Everyone knows that one. And The Wiz sadly has kind of gotten a bit of a bad rep. Like I think critically it's considered like not a really great movie. And so I feel like I always need to go into bat for it because like I really enjoy it. Like I think most people, especially young people, they go watch, like kids watch it. Like what's not to like? Like it's fun. There's so many colorful things happening. Like all these fun creatures, like the music, everything. It's just really, really fun. So
I'm gonna have to agree. I've seen it and I enjoyed it as well. It was quite trippy.
Very trippy.
Look, I think the critical, the failure of it. I can't help. Obviously, I wasn't around when this was released, but I can't help but wonder whether it was because it is an all-black version of The Wizard of Oz, right? So you've added this dimension of race into a story or a brand that's very white.
That's true.
And I'm guessing at the time things like that weren't done, so people just had a freak out and just went, what the hell is this? I'm guessing that's what may have happened.
I reckon that you're probably right. It's the same with like how they did the Cinderella with like Brandy and Whitney Houston, even though that's obviously got a following as well. I don't think it's considered like this iconic Cinderella. If you think of all the Cinderellas that have been made, it's not considered the most iconic because again, like probably just wasn't given the same kind of support and recognition that other ones would. But like I love that one too. So
and I also believe that Diana Ross and Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5 and like they were the Motown superstars that were at the peak of their career. So you think, hang on, this at least would have
it'd be a winning formula.
Totally. Yeah. But the song Home, for example, is such a classic. Yeah, and I think everyone knows it. So I mean, everyone who listens to musicals will probably know. But I think that is a really good pick. And yes, Diana Ross, great.
Amazing.
Such an icon. Yeah.
Totally. So definitely check that one out if you haven't. And especially if you're a fan of The Wizard of Oz too, because it's essentially the same story, but it's set in just like this kind of alternate New York. It's very fun. There's like a really cool like subway kind of sequence for the musical number. Anyway, that's all the time we have for now. Thank you so much for joining us as always. You've been watching The Film Whisperers here on Bent TV.